The difference between another good Iowa football season and a playoff caliber season comes down to 10 players. Not just the stars everyone knows, but the players who will decide whether Iowa can win the Big Ten's toughest games. Hawkeyes who absolutely must deliver if Iowa's going to make noise in 2026.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Man, I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. It is 75 days away from the Iowa football season. The home opener against Northern Illinois will continue our kickoff countdown and look at player number 75 on the roster coming up today. We'll be joined by David Eickholt. A lot of Iowa basketball conversation with David. We'll talk about both the men and the women. Some recruiting angles as well coming up with David Eickholt here today. But we begin with the top 10 players for Iowa football this season that I believe is going to be the difference between a nice season and one that leaves us maybe wanting a little bit more. These are the guys that I think have to deliver this year if Iowa is going to take a step forward, win one of those big games, and potentially be a team that is talking about playoff come November. Count it down, number 10 to number 1. We kick things off with the new middle linebacker, Cam Buffington, taking over. He was part of that 3-player recruiting class that came in at the linebacker spot a couple of seasons ago. And Cam Buffington, we have heard nothing but great things. You know, coming into the spring period, I truly believed it was going to be Montgomery back in the middle and maybe Cam Buffington or Reese filling in the other spot at linebacker. And it sounds after spring practice that Cam Buffington is going to be the guy. We know the physical talent is absolutely there, but you continue to hear more and more about Cam Buffington's understanding of the game, what it takes, coupled with what he can do physically. This is a guy to be incredibly excited about. We think through the great middle linebacker play that Iowa's had for the last decade plus at that spot. Year in, year out, they have been so good there, calling the defense, making the plays, making the reads, and playing at a high level. I think Cam Buffington has a chance to do that maybe a little bit earlier in his career than some people anticipated. Number 9 on the list, well, I cheated a little bit. It's a slash. Hank Brown / Jeremy Hecklinski. And the reason that the quarterback spot is not higher on this list for me is because we've seen Iowa be very successful and have very good seasons without elite level quarterback play. Now we need one of these two guys to separate themselves. I think that is going to be incredibly important. We'll see when we get to August camp who is going to be the guy ultimately that wins this job and gets this first crack at being the starter. But number 9 on the list, it's the quarterback spot between Hank Brown and Jeremy Hecklinski. Number 8 on the list is Trevor Lauck. And we'd all know Trevor Lauck and the season that he put together a year ago. First year as a starter, as a redshirt sophomore, took that left tackle spot and absolutely ran with it. He was a guy, obviously, that was fighting for playing time in the beginning of the season. Who was it going to be? Was it going to be him? Was it going to be Jack Dotzler? Ultimately, they were splitting time a little bit, but Lauck was just too good. And now taking that step forward, I think really important for this squad this year of what they're going to be able to do, of having a guy that takes another step in Trevor Lauck and becomes not just a good Big Ten player, but becomes an elite level left tackle. And then after the season, he might have a decision. Number 7 on the list, another guy that might be in a very similar decision-making process after this year is Zach Lutmer. And Zach Lutmer is a guy because of his versatility, his ability to play the cash, play outside a corner, or play either of the safety positions. That versatility is incredibly important. Finding the right spot for him coupled with the other guys on the roster, that's going to be a big piece. And the reason that Zach Lutmer is not higher on this list, because to me, regardless of where he plays, he's going to be playing at a high level. You don't worry about him. You know you're going to get good, solid play. And both these guys, Trevor Lauck at number 8, number 7, Zach Lutmer, you know you're going to get good play out of both of these guys. Number 6, a newer name on the list, that's Yosei Epinesa. And after seeing playing time last year as a true freshman, now the stakes are raised. The expectations definitely go up for Yosei Epinesa, not only battling for potentially a starting job on the outside, but also an ability to get to the quarterback. Kenneth Merriweather feels like very solid He's going to be a guy out there. He's going to be a starter on one side. Who's going to be that other starter? Is it going to be Kamari Brown, who comes in out of the transfer portal? Is it going to be Joseph Anderson, who I think everybody knows, and you everyday listeners know my thoughts and expectations for Joseph Anderson and what he can provide for this squad. But Jose Epinesa, big time upside, a big step forward, I think is going to go a long way for this Iowa football team. He comes in at number 6 on the list. We stay on the defensive line at number 5, and that is for Bryce Stevenson, another guy out of the transfer portal, getting him acclimated, up and running, and playing at a good level. Ready to go right away this season, because we know how difficult the beginning of Big Ten play is going to be for the Hawkeyes this year. Bryce Stevenson jumping in there, maybe winning a starting role. I think he is incredibly important. And even if it's not as a starter right away, Bryce Stevenson definitely needs to be a guy that is a big part of the rotation at defensive tackle. Still the biggest question mark for this Iowa football team in 2026. Number 4 on the list, 10 most important players for me this season for Iowa football, DJ Vonnahme. Vonnahme came onto the scene last year and absolutely by the end of the year was playing like we expect Iowa tight ends to play. The size, the speed, the versatility. He is the complete package and a guy that is going to have a chance to play at a really high level. We'll see how it translates now. There's going to be scouting reports that are going to be dedicated to DJ Vonnahme, and a lot of people are going to have their eyeballs on him. There's going to be help over the top. He's going to have to get past the linebackers, get over top of those safeties to make him plays, but he definitely has that ability. Number 3 on the list, we go back to the offensive line, and it's Cade Pieper. Pieper a season ago played at a really high level at the guard position. You look at the numbers from Pro Football Focus, who had him graded out as one of the best guards in the country. Now he makes the move inside to center. And now it's about figuring out, making the line calls, snapping the football. We know struggles have happened there in the past. Cade Pieper going to have a big one, and Iowa needs a big season at the center spot for Cade Pieper this year. Number 2, I am letting the hype hit me hard. I am hopeful. I'm dreaming of the offseason of Tony Diaz hitting the ground running and actually striking fear into opposing defenses. Yes, a wide receiver out of the transfer portal. We've talked about him a ton. Tony Diaz is number 2 on the list. And at number 1, we go back to that question mark spot, defensive tackle. And for me, the number 1 most important player for Iowa football this year, if they're going to take a step forward, is Bryce Hawthorne. Bryce Hawthorne a year ago comes in from South Dakota State. He was part of the rotation. We saw a lot of good things, but now for Bryce Hawthorne, it goes from being a nice, solid Big Ten player. Iowa, I believe this year, needs him to be elite, playing at an incredibly high level. They need that out of him and this defensive tackle spot as a whole. Number 1 on the list, Bryce Hawthorne for the Hawkeyes. There it is, the top 10 for this season in terms of importance. And if I was going to take a big step forward, it's going to come down to guys like that. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes. David Eickholt's going to join us next. A lot of Iowa basketball talk. We'll get into some recruiting. Big questions of the offseason with David Eickholt. That's next. Locked On Hawkeyes. Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed sponsored jobs come in. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. Well, we talk about winning teams, and that is obviously Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa football program. You know what he has built up. The expectations are absolutely high. It is not always about just finding the right recruiting fit. It's about finding people that play Iowa football and do it the right way. Some of the best moves organizations make aren't always the splashiest ones. Sometimes it's finding the right person who fits exactly what the team needs at the right moment. That's what stood out for this. The same idea behind Indeed sponsored jobs, helping connect organizations with candidates who are the right fit from the start. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of Locked On Hawkeyes will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is the job for Indeed. Sponsored jobs. We're going to open things up a little differently because if people have been joining, we welcome in David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. David, it's been a while. It's so long I didn't even have Dua Lipa queued up coming out of the break here for you today. It's been too long. How you been doing, my friend?
It's been good, man. We're just we're grinding away. A lot of things are coming up. We actually get some football availability tomorrow, so really excited about that. And then I'm going to Florida on over the weekend. So I'm rolling along here, man. Life's good.
Well, as we know famously over at Hawkeye Insider, when David Eickholt leaves, that means that news usually happens. So what's that going to mean? A few football commitments, maybe a basketball commitment. There's going to be something going on when you go away, right?
You know what? Like I would downplay it at this point, Trent, but like I don't think people really understand. I don't plan any of this, and it has just come up time and time again. It is. I don't know why it continues to happen, but like if Iowa got a football commit, there's almost nothing that would surprise me at this point. Seriously, nothing would surprise me.
So I want to go behind the curtain for a moment. You guys, normally you have your crystal balls, part of 24/7 that you put out, and information that you're getting from players, agents, high school coaches, college coaches. So I'm just going to put it this way. Do you have anything in the can? Do you have a recruiting commitment story already ready to go at Hawkeye Insider? Do you anticipate something's going to be happening here pretty soon?
Well, that's the big question, right? Like, we don't know if there's something pretty soon, or it could be tomorrow, or it could be a month from now. I mean, I'll tell you, especially like going back to the transfer portal, right? When you get to hear rumblings, we know how things can turn on a dime, right? I'll tell you, I had 3 stories for 3 players I thought were departing from the Iowa football program, and I ended up never using them, right? So there are a lot of times where we have hints about things are going one way or the other, but we will just put stories and get stories ready to go. So if it does in fact happen, we're not lacking behind. But I will tell you, there are thousands and thousands of words that never get published just because of how crazy everything can be. And I know we've talked repeatedly on this show, over the years about how things turn on a dime. That's only been amplified exponentially with NIL, with agent involvement, with the transfer portal, with all these other conversations, things that happen behind the scenes. Like it always feels like everybody's planning for their next stop or their next step while the previous step hasn't even begun yet. But that's just the era that we live in. And I probably don't anticipate that changing anytime soon.
We come off the big weekend a couple weekends ago where Iowa had some bigger prospects that were on campus. The 2 guys that we didn't even know beforehand were going to be their commit with Jonathan Harris and Darius Allen making their commitments to the Hawkeyes. But when you look at some of the bigger names that were there a couple of weekends ago, anybody that you do have that good feeling about, anybody that you feel like Iowa's in good shape for, because this class is filling up fast for football?
Again, that's where I'm like, it's an interesting question, because if you would have asked me about Caleb Johnson, the 4-star offensive tackle, I think a lot of people felt pretty good about the possibility of him, right? And then obviously kind of the ball dropped, and we hear that, Michigan State may have paid a little bit of money to get him to commit, but that's just the way the world works right now. Iowa does not believe in overpaying for their players. Like you said, the 2 people that did commit were kind of under the radar with everything. There's still a handful I feel good about, but at the same time, they still have their visits planned out. They're still kind of feeling their way through the process. But the other thing I think people need to realize and take a step back on, and I'm happy you asked about this is not going to be a very big class, Trent. Like, if you look at Iowa's senior class, I believe there's only 11 guys right now that have to depart from the program. Yes, there'll be some early entries probably. I mean, you look at, Trevor Lauck would be considered an early entry. He's going to be a top 2-round pick. I'm very curious about DJ Vonnahme, because I do think he can have that sort of breakout year. And Zach Lutmer is another guy that really might take that next step. But I also feel good, maybe a guy like Barrett Cottrell, the Ashland, Nebraska native, I think could be a pretty good fit. Daryl Fleemeister out of Detroit, kind of under the radar, like, Phil Parker type athlete. But other than that, like, I think Iowa is completely fine with slow playing the process. And even going back to a couple of weeks ago, Trent, it feels like it really was not as big of a recruiting weekend as it has been for the past few years. Again, I wouldn't take that as a red flag. I think Iowa feels pretty good about where they're at. But there's still a lot of moving parts and pieces about what could happen following this year. Because, again, I don't think this is going to be a very big class. And if there's anything they immediately need, they're going to hit the transfer portal for it. So, again, I know some people are panicking. I would advise to give it some time.
Let's jump over to some basketball. David Eickholt joining us from Hawkeye Insider. And the big name that remains out there is Keller Daugherty, a guy that at the point guard position just looks like a perfect fit for what Iowa wants to do. But you got two home state schools that are involved with Miami and Florida State. Of course, Michigan, the defending national champion. That's the waters that you're swimming in order to get him. There's been other big-time programs that are sniffing around a little bit more. He's trying out now for a Team USA team, and there was some information, including he has set his visit to Iowa for September. But because he's not going to make a decision this summer, and because, in fact, right now, I think they have a point guard on campus.
Yeah.
Is it a wait and see? Is it slow playing everybody else? This has got to be a difficult spot because it feels like Iowa is in really good position for Daugherty, yet you have these other point guards that are all really good players, top 50, top 100 type of prospects. And if they want to be Hawkeyes, what do you do?
Who'd have thunk it, right? A few years ago with where we're at right now. But yeah, so Tyrone Jameson is on campus right now. He's rated number 51 by 24/7 Sports' rankings, 6'1", about 160, out of New Orleans. But here's what I'd point to. Keller Daugherty is a guy that gets you to an Elite Eight or Final Four team. He is the most dominant scorer and playmaker in the EYBL. And if people aren't aware of that, that is one of the highest top-rated circuits in all of AAU. And if I'm Ben McCollum, and if I'm Iowa, and I'm hesitant to call Iowa the favorite here, Trent, because we know how that word kind of gets misconstrued. So I'll phrase it like this. I would not trade places with anyone right now in the recruitment of Keller Daugherty. You want to be in Iowa's position. I've been told that by two national guys. John Bach's been very close to the ground with this. Elliot Clough also paying attention to it. There's a reason why Jackson Davis, who is the 42nd best player in the country by 24/7 Sports, 6 feet tall, 170 point guard, right? There's a reason why his visit is a week after Daugherty's. Keller Daugherty is the number one prospect on Iowa's board. He is the guy where if he commits, even let's say if they take Tyrone Jameson or Jackson Davis commits before he visits, I don't think that's going to happen with not Jameson, but Davis. You do not say no to Daugherty. You make room on the roster and you make it work. He is one of those dynamic scorers that can play the one guard. He'll be an undersized two guard, but he can get you bucket. It's an abundance of riches, and I like the way Iowa's playing this because time and time again, we have seen, Trent, when you go all in on one prospect and you finish as the bridesmaid or the maid of honor and not the bride, you're scrambling to see what's next or still what's out there. Now, the transfer portal's helped out with that quite a bit. But you kind of hang on to Daugherty and you slow play everybody else. And if one of them wants to commit, you make it work on the roster.
So we go from Daugherty at the point guard position to the latest commitment, and that is Keller Daugherty. Man, they're making this difficult on us with these names that are very similar, yet very different. Keller Daugherty, a very fun prospect, 6'10", has some guard skills, grew a ton here over the last, year and a half, and he's up to 6'10", 6'11", right in that range. Has still got some of that skill that he had as a guard when he was growing up and now growing into his body. Your thoughts overall on the latest commitment for Ben McCollum?
I absolutely love this. I think this is such a Ben McCollum find and get, and the fact that they got him this early in the process is a very big deal because this is a guy that would have and probably still will earn several more Power 4 offers with his play this early season. I know Eric Bossy, our national recruiting analyst, said he's a perfect fit for what Ben McCollum wants to do. He's slender. He's athletic. He's learning how to go up stronger. He's probably more of a 4 than a 5 at this point. But his combination of size, length, athleticism, and shooting, we know how much Ben McCollum loves the hybrids. And then you look at, obviously, they have Jaden Kuhn right now, right? They have Ethan Harris. They have Tristan Thompson. I mean, Iowa's going to have a lot of defensive versatility, a lot of switching ability, and a lot of shooting on the outside with guys that 20 years ago were not nipping the three-point line. So I think it's a really good find. I think he's going to continue to rise through the rankings. I anticipate when Iowa and 24/7 Sports updates it, I think he'll be a top 125 to top 100 prospect. This is a guy that, look, he might not be the highest rated top 50 guy coming out of high school, So if you talk about a developmental piece that Ben McCollum has had success time and time again with, you cannot overlook his long-term potential. I think this is a really smart get by McCollum. So I would anticipate people pay a little bit closer attention to how he performs in the AAU side of things this summer, and don't look at the offers, because he would have gotten a lot more offers in the next 2 to 3 months.
David, it's been a while since we spoke. The roster is set over on the women's basketball with going to go into the season. Looks like with the 11 players that they have, really like what they did, obviously with Carnegie, a top 5 player out of the portal. That's going to go a long way when you can get a first team all SEC guard to come in and help out in your backcourt. Overall, where are your expectation level now with the women's team coming into the season, knowing that it's going to look different offensively? They're going to go back to the more traditional look that we're used to under Lisa Bluter and then Jan Jensen before last season offensively. But where is kind of your baseline going into the season now?
Again, you're asking the right questions today, Trent. I got to give you a lot of credit.
Yeah,
I want to
I'm locked in.
This. And I got to tell you, I want your opinion on this. This has to be a second weekend caliber team.
Mm-hmm.
I know they only have 11 players on the roster, but I love the idea to go back to a 4 out. Danny Carnegie is going to take so much pressure off of Chit Chat Wright, and the offense is going to look so different. I think people are going to be in for a shock, because Chit Chat Wright was really, with all due respect to the other players on the roster, Chit Chat Wright and Taylor Stremlow at times were the only 2 players that could kind of initiate the offense and create their own shot. Right? Yeah, Ava Hine can do that when you give her the ball in the post, but teams started collapsing when Iowa didn't have the shooting around her. Carnegie's a pure 3-level scorer, athletic, versatile. She can, handle the one in certain sets. Chit Chat Wright can go off the ball. She doesn't have to be the only one kind of initiating everything. I like some of the backup pieces they brought in. Ava Hyen's going to be one of the best post players in all of women's college basketball. I think McKenna Velichko is going to be a really good player for Iowa. I really do, even from day one. I think her being the 4th option on offense in the starting 5 is such a big deal for a 5-star, because there's so much more spacing and there's a lot more talent around her. Velichko can live with, hey, I'm going to play great defense. I'm not going to foul. I'm one of the best rebounders in all of the 2026 recruiting class. She's long. She's improved her 3-point shooting, her range, and she can kind of be that scrappy player and carve out her niche. I think that's a perfect situation for her. And then the player I'm really starting to come around on, I'm really excited about. How about Amari Whiting, the Oklahoma State transfer, 97 career starts under her belt. The daughter of a head coach, a college head coach. That goes a long way. Her toughness and defensive versatility are huge. I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off of some other players to perform. I'm curious how that battle's going to go at that 3 spot between Journey Houston, Whiting, and all them, and Stremlow probably. But Iowa just feels like every single player on their roster could potentially play at this point. Again, the injury fronts can be really scary, I think, to watch for when you have 11 players. But this is a deep team. It's a skilled team. And I got to tell you, I think they're going to be a preseason top 12 team, and I expect them to make the second weekend. I think this has to be the year. They got the pieces and the experience to do it.
David, to your original point about the Sweet 16, I think it becomes not imperative, but it is important. Year number 1, when Jan takes over, they get to the tournament. That was good. Had that rough turn in the middle of the season when they lost the 5 straight, bounced back and played really well at the end of the year. And just the way they were drilled against Oklahoma and also being drilled by Jenny Baranczyk, there was some grumbling after that. Then you allow at home this past season, the first ever team to come from the first 4 to make the Sweet 16 in women's college basketball. It happens on your home floor, the way that 4th quarter went there. And if you fall short again of a Sweet 16, you start to get concerned a little bit. All the momentum that you have coming off the Caitlin years before that, what this program was. And if it's another disappointment in the second round again this season, you know how things go. You live on message boards. You have to know, David. The grumblings will get very, very loud. So I think the way that you pose that is absolutely, it's important. It's not imperative. Program's not going to fall apart if they don't, or they get knocked off in the second round again. But just to cure a little bit of that, they've had a couple of great regular seasons, done some great things in the Big Ten tournament and Big Ten play overall. Getting that next step, getting to the second weekend. And you know the buildup too. I mean, just think back to the Sweet 16s we've seen with this women's basketball program. Those 4 or 5 days just building up to it, you get a bigger part of the national consciousness also becomes a part of it when you're talking about the team leading into those Sweet 16s.
Here's what I'd point to as well. The importance and the emphasis on the tournament is, I hate to say it, at times, it's all that matters
Yeah.
Look at the Iowa men and how they struggled to end the regular season, right? Look what they did in the tournament. Look at the noise around the men's program now. Look at the momentum behind the men's program, especially in the Iowa City area. I mean, I'm sure you see it there in Western Iowa as well, right? Mm-hmm. It's a completely different vibe and feel. But at the same time, everybody would have taken the women's regular season over the men's regular season because of what the women were able to accomplish, right? They have to get past that next step with this new regime. They have to make that second weekend, because I'll tell you, if they don't, that pressure is going to be amplified to an nth degree going into Jan Jensen's fourth year, because you know what? If they hold on to Danny Carnegie, she's a senior all-conference player. They hold on Chit Chat Wright. They hold on to Ava Hyen. They have a second-year five-star McKenna Volichko. Like, they're going to have even more pieces to where people are going to say, you know what? A Sweet 16 is not going to be good enough. And if they want to quiet that noise around the program, they're going to be able to go farther, because, again, the importance on the tournament, once the regular season concludes, that's what people remember more than the regular season's ups and downs.
David Eickholt from HawkeyeInsider.com. David, no, we're waiting for some commitments over there. What else are you working on as we count down to kickoff, getting ready for football season? What do you guys have up at HawkeyeInsider.com?
Yeah, so I'm doing my countdown of the top indispensable players for the football team. We're going to meet with a lot of defensive players for football tomorrow. And then we're hoping later tonight, if I'm able to kind of scratch up some things to get some stuff done, our own Elliot Clough actually sat down with Bennett Sturts for 40 minutes this morning before his NBA draft appearance. And he did report that Ben McCollum will be joining Bennett Sturts in the NBA green room. So an Iowa Hawkeye is back in that illustrious club. And then a lot of recruiting stuff, man. You know how it is. We're going to keep grinding away. But again, be on the lookout for Elliot's podcast with Bennett Sturts and a lot more to come.
Love that. Love your time as always. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We'll talk again soon, David.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
David Eickholt from HawkeyeInsider.com. Thanks as always to David for his time. Well, if you've been viewing us each and every day or listening to us every day, this is something for you. Get your daily Locked On Hawkeyes fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click on the link in the show notes or go to lockedonhawkeyes.supercast.com to claim your free trial. That's lockedonhawkeyes.supercast.com. 75 days away from kickoff. Our countdown continues next. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone work toward the same goal. That's true in sports, just like it is in business. You see that happening with Iowa basketball now and Ben McCollum. How about this most recent commitment, getting Daugherty, a guy that didn't blow up, but he was on his way. Iowa, being a step ahead of the process with Ben McCollum. In Iowa basketball, everyone knows their role. Everyone's on the same page, and that's what separates good organizations from great ones. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Trent Condon back with you once again on your daily Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your daily Hawkeye each and every day with you, and glad to have you aboard with us. We are 75 days away from kickoff for Iowa football. Yes, we are getting closer and closer, but we don't want to wish away the summer. And number 75 for this upcoming season is a guy that's worn that number for the last few years, Cannon Leonard. Now, he's a big guy. Not just big, about 6'9", 309 pounds. And he's been part of the conversations, a guy that is working, building, trying to get to the level that they hope for. Definitely has the size, and now it's about getting him out there on the field. Now, I don't know how often we're going to see much Cannon Leonard this season, but with Trevor Lauck, with the decision possibly coming up for him after his junior campaign, what you have on that front. You go over to the other side, and of course, at the right tackle position, that's going to be an open one coming into the season. Can he push for playing time this year? Those are some of the questions that are out there right now for number 75, Cannon Leonard. Over the weekend, we missed number 77, George Nahas, the Iowa State transfer, helping out in the interior of the offensive line, and number 78, Gene Reardon, who's part of that big group of freshmen coming in on the offensive line, a true freshman this season, and a guy, another one, to be really excited about his future, as we talked about him and Carson Nielsen. Number 75, Cannon Leonard, though, in our countdown to kickoff for Iowa football season. We'll be back with you tomorrow here, Locked On Hawkeyes, on your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.